Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about how old is your collection. And I've tried to put a number to a lot of these theories here, and I've kind of decided that it's going to be called the collection age ratio. And the thing is, we're going to discuss exactly how old is an old figure and what constitutes a new figure. We're also going to talk about how this sort of affects your collecting and your outlook for the future figures and future releases. We're also going to discuss how this affects new collectors versus long-term collectors. We're also going to discuss factors of people that have a lot of old figures that they probably want to get rid of, but they don't. We're also going to talk about price sensitivity of people based on where they're collecting, how they're collecting, and their style, and this collection age ratio, how it affects it. And ultimately, why so many collectors are tapping out these days. We're going to talk about this coming up. So first off, I want to talk about this number, the collection age ratio, and it's pretty simple. It's real easy. Count number of figures you have. Let's say I have 100 figures, and I picked up 10 new figures last year, but 2 of those were reissues. They don't count. So the way I'm going to look at it is any figure that was released within the past year or 12 months is new. It's a new figure. If it's a reissue I picked up, that doesn't count. So that's kind of old school figures. And so for me, I have about a 92% or a 9.2 to 1 ratio. So I'm going to go more like percentages. That's pretty easy for everybody to understand. So 92% on my collection. And the reason for that is because I've been collecting for a long time and I only kind of pick up a select few. I don't pick up everything that's out there, and I'm very targeted in my collecting. Some people are like that also. So you can try to discuss what constitutes an old figure. Well, a figure that's obviously not even getting reissued because there's rumor that it's never going to get reissued. But the thing is, there's got to be a line drawn to where these are kind of old and this is kind of modern. And where is that line? Is that line at, well, some people try to say it's MP36. Now, MP36 is the reigning king and the standard for a masterpiece Megatron right now. But it came out in 2017. I think it was like May or something of 2017, something along those lines. It has been a while since that figure came out. Sorry, 5 years since it came out. I've been counting it in dog years though, so it's middle-aged. It's middle-aged in dog years. But with all the competition and what happened back in the day when he came out, when MP36 came out, all of the other third parties just stopped dead in their tracks. They didn't reissue them. I don't know why Apollyon got reissued. I think it was already a production run going on or something. But the rest of them just stopped dead in their tracks, and no new Megatrons have been out. So really, this one just is the reigning king because no one wants to take it on, even though Magic Square could probably beat it. Speaking of Megatron or a Megatron adjacent, Galvatron, what constitutes a new figure? So when you think about all this, you kind of think, well, Abaddon is an abandoned project, and I know Abaddon, whatever. And it's an abandoned project from X-Transbots, and now it's coming back. But if this gets released within the past year, okay, is that a new figure? It's an old design from like 8 years ago or 7 years ago. Is that still a new figure? Well, I would say yes. And there's a couple of reasons why. And I'm also going to throw a couple of more examples that sort of challenge this. And the reason why I try to say within this past year. Another one is this Dante. So is Dante going to be a new figure? Well, it's an old design, and they're resurrecting their old design. But I think that it's not going to be exactly the same as if they would have put it out 5, 6, 7 years ago, or whenever they originally were going to put this figure out. And when they backed out or seceded from the whole Inferno War back then, now they're bringing it back out, but it will have new updated hardware or transformation. Something will be different. And I think that they get to a certain stage or certain level and they don't go further with it, but now they're at that level and they're going further with it. So parts are going to change. Things are going to be different about it than if it was released back then with modern day technology and what they know now and what they've learned from past mistakes, hopefully. So we see good old Acoustic Wave, Robot Paradise, or Fans Toys, and with this is not the same figure they would have put out in 2012. So when you look at this, you say this is much different. But when you analyze both the 2012 version and the 2019 version, and yes, this is the 2019 version, even though we got it last year, when you analyze them side by side, there are more similarities than differences. So it's not like they completely 100% abandoned the first Acoustic Wave. They just took it and they revised it utilizing modern technology and the direction that they're going with stylistically, the direction they're going with their hardware and the direction they're going overall, I'm so much happier with what they put out today than what they would have put out back then. And I guarantee you, the same thing about the X-Transbots ones. Same thing with Virtus, and I truly believe the reason this is taking so long is they are making that many changes to it. I don't think it's like, well, we're just having trouble. It's a 2-year production in the factory. No, it's not. It is, they are still making design changes. They want to be the best, and that's that. Maybe we will benefit as a consumer for this one. So we get back to the idea of, why are you saying 1 year is what you consider new? Shouldn't something that's 2 years old be new? Shouldn't something within the last 3 years be new? What constitutes new? And by the way, this grinder, is it Fans Toys grinder? It's coming back in stock at Show Z, according to their site. It's not in stock now, but it's coming in stock. So if you're in on this one, then you might want to jump on it. But still, anyway, getting into that, you got to draw the line somewhere, do the line at a year. If you want to draw the line at 2 years or 3 years, that's up to you. But I'm curious what people think down below. What do you think constitutes a new Masterpiece Transformer? So getting into this whole number that I try to quantify here. And so your collection age ratio of, say, 90 or 9 to 1. If you have 90% of your figures are old figures that are older than 1 year old and not reissues, then more than likely you've been collecting for a long time. If you've been collecting for a long time, a lot of times you are looking at an end game. You're saying, you know what, I got this far and I'm still in it because I want to get this, that, and another. And so when you constantly see every release, or 60 to 70% of the releases are just replacement figures, then you're thinking, well, I don't want to be part of all that. Like, I'm happy with my Tesla 1.0. Or maybe it's like Tesla is one of my 6 figures that I wanted to replace in my collection, along with these 9 or 12 figures that I need to finish my collection. And a lot of the long-term collectors are looking at it like that. So this is an assumption on my behalf, and more or less because it's the way I think. Now, everybody has their own opinion and collecting style, but I really think that a lot of long-term collectors that would have a higher number in this collection age ratio look forward to characters that have never been made before. These are more exciting and more interesting. They look forward to these the most, and would more or less jump on these, buy these, get these figures, even if this wasn't in their list or their plan. And now they start to rethink their list and their plan. But oddly enough, X-Transbots is the one giving us the most new characters. There's a couple other Generation Toy and all this kind of stuff. We're also seeing some MMC and all that. But if you look at Fans Toys is almost 100% on replacement items, trying to replace your collection versus giving you new characters. And looking at the replacement characters, this is one Fans Toys replacement character that I actually look forward to, and I think most collectors do. This is probably the underdog of these replacement characters that most people, it's a silent creeper that, like, you know what, I didn't know I needed it until I saw it. And let's talk about new collectors real quick, and new collectors more or less will probably have a low collection age ratio, simply because most of the figures they're getting are coming out this year, within the past year, and they're getting them at retail prices instead of paying a massive premium on the secondary market. They're also snatching up some reissues for a good price, and there's more to new collectors than you might think. And I'm not a new collector. I just read the comments and I get a lot of feedback, and I appreciate that feedback, so I'm about to share it with you. I think that a lot of new collectors that are full go into collecting Masterpiece, not the ones that are still trying to try it out and see if it's something they want, that are going full go, they decided, I am in on this 100%, probably are less price sensitive than those of us that have been around for a long time and saw Lupus at $80. See, new collectors see Lupus as a $300 figure because that's what everybody's asking, and not really sure if it's really getting reissued, because the rumor is it's getting reissued, but nobody really knows. But they kind of look at this and they say, well, this is an expensive hobby. So either I'm going to pay up or I'm going to get out. So one of those two things that happen, and the people that are staying in it and they're looking around, they're saying, well, these newly released items, the prices aren't nearly as bad as what people are asking on eBay for the ones that are out of print or out of production for the last 3 years. So I really do think that a lot of the newest collectors are less price sensitive than us old timers that sat around and said, that thing's an $80 figure, I'm not paying $300 for it. Newer collectors also have the benefit of buying figures, older iterations, when old collectors dump them. And we're not talking about age. We're talking about time in the hobby, time in the collecting. And people that have a Tesla 1.0 are dumping it right now. Now, there is a whole tangent I was about to go on with why I keep bringing up Tesla and the Perceptor War, because it's relevant and it's right here and everybody kind of understands it. If I keep like referencing the whole war that we had with the six-shot war. You remember the six-shot war, and the Fansoys came out with theirs, and then people even said the Fansoys suck because of the knees and all of that. I mean, most people don't remember that. So we reference the old Perceptor War, but see, even with this, who'd pay $100 for the 1.0 when for $30 more you get a modern, more superior figure? New collectors have so many great options these days. So now we get into the whole question of to sell your old or to keep your old. There is an issue with this. Now, the biggest issue is called sunk costs. A lot of people that went out and they bought the Seekers from Make Toys, once they've sold out, paid out the nose. I think people are paying $300 a figure for these Seekers, and we heard they were getting reissued. They never got reissued because Make Toys is over there with all these other companies. They know what's going on. They're in the know. Why would they pay money for a production run when they're broke and then they're going to produce a figure that's not going to sell? So these were out of print for a while, and people thought it was going to get reissued, but it never did, and people that paid $300 now are struggling to get $100 out of them. So when you're in that situation, do you just keep it? Like, are you going to take the $200 hit? I mean, you have to think about the sunk cost of $300 per figure and say, well, I can only get 100. I can't even get 100. I get 80 or 90 or 75 or whatever. Should I take that and then move on to buy me a mini bot? Or should I just hold on to these forever? Maybe they gain value, or maybe I can put them into alt mode or something like that. So this affects your collector age ratio. If you don't get rid of stuff, you just hold on to it because of your sunk cost value. I do want to talk again about reissues sitting on the market. I think there's a lot of stuff about this. And although I show a picture of a bug, because this is the one sitting, it shows you that's not sold out yet. Great figure. I love it. I'm thinking about getting another one, but because I like Kickback's my favorite one of these. But I think a lot of reissues don't sell out because we've got a large group of collectors that are now starting to see that we're getting newer and better. Why do I want to buy a 5, 6, 7-year-old design when somebody's going to come out with a new version of it down the road? We're getting all these replacement items. Eventually, we're going to get a better, an upgraded 2.0 or a better version. So why am I going to waste my money on these old ones when a new one comes out? And that's not specifically this figure, but it's reissues in general. I think that's the thought process, and I've been hearing that. It may be true. So next I want to talk about losing collectors for a lot of different reasons. First off, some collectors are just getting tired of the game. Tired of the replacement game. They can't quite finish what they're looking for. And I think when people quit, they don't always sell everything. They just stop buying and lose interest. There's another reason that people are quitting the game, and it's not intentional. It has nothing to do with releases. It's because hard times. Hard times are hitting everywhere, not just the U.S. A lot of people are struggling, and if you're currently struggling and you're selling stuff out of your closet just to pay your heat bill so that you can warm your house with your gas bill or your electric bill, depending on which utility you use, and you're selling stuff out of the closet, 2023 is going to be a big eye-opener for a lot of people that are not in the know when they get that 1099K tax bill. But also with that, people that are struggling to get by month to month, they're not even thinking about the discussion of, shall I get the $700 Carbonics or the $300 smaller, like 10-point-something inch version of the 3.0. They're not in that conversation. I don't think they even want to be in that conversation. I think when their mind is on, can I pay this gas bill to heat my house when it's 0 degrees outside, this isn't even a factor to them. Now, I don't want to get too negative. I want to be positive, but the real world does get in the way of our fun. It gets in the way of what's going on with our collecting and all this kind of stuff. And sadly, it really does affect our collections. But looking at this, I really want to know everybody else's take on this collection age ratio. Because one point I didn't mention was the term masterpiece meant that was the end-all be-all of that character. Should never have to buy another one, but yet here we are buying more. And I gotta tell you, a lot of old collections that haven't been upgraded still look phenomenal. And how do I know? Because they send me the pictures for my 10,000, 12,000, 13,000 subscriber special. I got a 13K sub special coming up, so send that in. Anyway, let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe. Titanium Hanger out.